Okay. Okay. All right. Good evening. We will go ahead and get started. The time is 6:33, and we will go ahead and call our planning and zoning meeting to order for today, which is January 8th, 2025. We're going to come back to the roll call and excused absences because I know there's a little bit of traffic, and so we're going to give any commissioners some time to get here. If we can move to item number 3, which is our invocation, our moment of silence. And Ms. Weimer, did you get my message?
I got it. I thought that was for last month. No, I did not.
No, I just emailed you a couple days ago. But so, are you okay with it'd be your choice for item 3 if you would like to do an invocation, pass the invocation, or go ahead and ask for a moment of silence?
We'll do a moment of silence.
Okay, all right.
We'll do a moment of silence. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared.
No, that's okay.
I just figured out how to get to that part of the email, so
Oh, okay,
I
gotcha.
apologize.
No worries. Okay, moment of silence. Okay, thank you, commissioners. If we can move to our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we do not have anyone here for the citizens to be heard. Oh, let's see, we've got, nope, not a commissioner. Okay, well, I guess let's go ahead and move to roll call so we can kind of keep it going. Would that mean Mr. Hines could move up for Miss Beaver then? Mr. Hines, would you like to move up for Miss Beaver's spot? And then you said Mr. Thompson's on his way? Okay.
When he comes in, I'll just put the time he arrives.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, roll call. We'll start on the right. Oh, just
Bridget.
your name. Yeah.
Okay, Diana Weimer. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's okay.
Angela Dodd. Jacqueline Garcia.
Jennifer Grieve.
Maria Fishback.
Terry Hines.
And can I get a motion for an excused absence for Miss Yvette Hubbard?
I move to make a motion to excuse Miss Hubbard's absence.
Okay, I have a motion. Can I get a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? We'll start down here.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And then we do not have any other absences that came in. Okay. Okay. Next is item number 6. We will jump right into that, which is our election of chairperson and vice chairperson. That is every January. It is for 1 full year. Do we have any nominations or anyone who would like to? Can you self-nominate? I don't think we've had to.
Did you want to do the chair or vice chair first?
Let's do vice. Which is best to go in? Chair? Chair first? Let's do the chair first. Sure. Okay. Any person would like to nominate or be nominated for election of chairperson for this next year?
I make a motion to nominate Ms. Jen Grieve to continue in the position of chairwoman.
I second it.
Oh, well, that's very nice. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote down on the right.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will remain chairperson for this next year. Thank you all very much. And we would like to move on to our vice chairperson. Do we have any nominations or any for vice chair?
I move to make a motion to nominate Ms. Garcia to remain in the position of co-chairwoman.
Okay, and I'll second. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. We will remain. Thank you, everyone. And always ask questions and feel free to jump into the role next year yourselves. Okay, moving on to item number 7, which is our consent agenda. This is going to be approval of the minutes from December 11th, 2024 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Any questions, comments? No? Okay, then I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes from December 11th, 2024. Can I get a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. Next is going to be our item 8A. That is our discussion and action regarding a variance to Unified Development Code, which we call the UDC very often. Section 19.4, block design for the proposed Neal Tract subdivision.
Good evening. So I provided, staff was provided a revised staff report. We were recommended to change this request from a variance to a waiver since the applicant is wishing to forego the complete requirement, which would fall under a waiver rather than a variance. So this is for the Neal Tract subdivision, or proposed Neal Tract subdivision located on Schmeckel Road. It's west of the intersection of Schmeckel Road and Santa Clara Road in the city of Cibolo's extraterritorial jurisdiction, or ETJ. The Neal subdivision is proposing 4-phase development consisting of 67.589 acres and 337 lots, each measuring about 40 feet by 120 feet, which would make approximately 4,800 square foot per lot, with vehicular access from the interior subdivision streets. So the applicant is requesting a waiver to section 19.4 block design, which requires alleys for lots less than 60 feet in width. Which requires alleys for lots less than 60 feet in width. As stated in section 19.4, all lots less than 60 feet in width platted after the effective date of Ordinance 1261 passed in April of 2019 are required to take vehicular access from an alley. Alley design and construction shall conform to all requirements of this UDC and the Cibolo Design Construction Manual, or DCM. And per the DCM's general street design guidelines, residential alleys require a minimum of right-of-way width of 24 feet and a pavement width of 18 feet. So under section 20.1.11 waivers, the subdivision waiver may be granted if the proposal meets all the criteria. So the first criteria is that granting the waiver will not be detrimental to the public safety, health, or welfare, and will not be injurious to other property or to the owners of other property, and the waiver will not prevent the orderly subdivision of other property in the vicinity. So staff finds that the applicant's narrative letter indicates that the interior subdivision streets with a pavement width of 32 feet will ensure, quote, that fire trucks and other emergency vehicles can access the site safely and efficiently, even with vehicles parked on both sides of the street, without the need for an alley in the rear. So, however, the intent for alleys is defined in section 1.12 of the UDC as a minor right-of-way not intended to serve as a primary access to lots, but rather a secondary access or secondary means of vehicular service access to the back or sides of properties that abut a street. So in addition to the fire access, the UDC states that alleys are necessary to provide for adequate access for service vehicles, off-street loading or unloading, access for emergency vehicles, or similar reasons consistent with the intent of the UDC. Additionally, the proposed 40-foot wide lots, as proposed by the Neal subdivision, may result in closely spaced driveways, potentially causing on-street parking congestions for property owners within the subdivision. The second criteria is because the particular physical surrounding shape and or topographical conditions of specific property are involved, have a particular hardship to the property owner that would result as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of these regulations are carried out, or an alternate design will generally achieve the same result as the intent and standards of the regulations. So the applicant did not identify any property-related hardships or unique conditions on the property that would prevent compliance with the alley requirement. Instead, the applicant is proposing an alternate design that provides additional pavement width of 32 feet rather than the minimum 30-foot requirements, This design includes 20 feet in width for fire access and 12 feet in width for two 6-foot wide parking spaces to allow for parking on both sides of the street. However, the proposed 6-foot wide parking spaces do not meet the minimum 9-foot width requirement in section 10.6.1 of the UDC. So lastly, the waiver would not in any manner vary from the provisions of the UDC or ordinance of the city. Staff finds that granting the waiver would not align with Ordinance 1261 passed in April 2019 or Section 19.4 of the UDC. Allowing such a waiver without satisfying criteria in Section 1.11 would undermine the intent and purpose of the requirements as outlined by the UDC as well as supporting ordinances. If you have any questions, staff and the applicant are here to assist.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. And you said there is an applicant here? Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have, I do want to say I really do appreciate the revised staff report. I don't know who got back into that, but there's some really good information there that was kind of on my side notes, and you guys grabbed it because it seems like there was a lot of centering in on just this fire lane and the 32 feet and from the 2019 meeting, and I know there's more to that, but not everybody knows there's more to that, so thank you for narrowing in on that and applying more information. Thank you. Does anyone on the commission have any questions? Either or.
Okay, can I go ahead and start the discussion?
Of course.
Okay. Well, so my concern is this, is that we see it platted, but we don't have any idea as to what the houses will look like on the lot. So if the garages are to the back side of the lot and the driveway goes up the whole side of the property, then that would mitigate parking on the road. But if it's like a garden home and it's up against the front property line where there's very little room for parking and there's no access, like it's a garage that's up front without a long drive, then we have an issue with parking, because it's an issue even in houses that have 60-foot wide lots. I can use my neighborhood as an example, is that we have families that have 4 and 6 cars. A lot of times people don't use the car in the garage, they don't put the car in the garage, they use the garage for other purposes. And we actually have this moving rotation of trying to get parking. And I live on a cul-de-sac, so now we have spokes. So all the cars that are on the cul-de-sacs are now pointed into the cul-de-sac. And every once in a while, the fire department does come by and remind everybody that they can't park like that because they can't get through. So if we're having that issue on 60-foot wide lots, how are we going to mitigate it on these smaller lots? So to me, without knowing what the houses are going to look like, I'm inclined to say, no, they need to design it where they have back alleys so that these vehicles are not in front of the houses.
Great, thank you. Ms. Dodd, questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Garcia?
No, I don't.
Ms. Fishback?
So to Ms. Weimer's point, I'm curious for staff. So based on what they would like, they want a variance so that they can get the 32-foot wide streets, right? They're assuming 6 foot on each side for parking a vehicle, but according to this, we need 9 feet on both sides, right? I'm curious as to a subdivision in Cibolo, what that street width is, because to your point, right, it's emergency vehicles going up and down those roads all the time, and the narrower they get, the harder it is for them to go through. Even though 32 feet sounds like a lot, when you have so many vehicles parked on both sides, how do we have a subdivision in Cibolo already where the streets are that width with the houses close together that for comparison? I'm just curious, because for me to do, this is a little hard just reading it. I can visualize it though, if you could tell me if there was one. Like Deercrest, for example, it only has one entrance in and off of Cibolo Valley. Those have pretty narrow streets, and yes, we have that issue of parking on the street a lot, because even though they're double wide
So I can't recall, off the top of my head, which neighborhoods have this, because the minimum requirement is 30 feet. The applicant is giving two, yeah, two more, I don't know, it does consider the width required for, fire access already to go through in addition, with the parking on the sides.
So, okay, so again, how wide is that fire truck, right? Because that's really the biggest vehicle that's gonna try to get through, right? An ambulance is smaller, can get through more easily, but a truck, what would that be, do you know?
So I know in the applicant's letter, they did reference the International Fire Code. The International Fire Code lists a minimum of 20 feet for fire truck. However, you know, that, again, that's just considering the fire truck. That's not considering on-street parking, that we're talking about. So, yeah, I think that's a great question that you asked. I think that's something that we can definitely look into, especially whenever this goes to city council, to look at what other areas within the city this is comparable with. So that we have our homework, but I do know that in looking back at the last meetings that were had, just trying to draft up that ordinance back in 2019, I believe it was back in March or so, city council had a lot of discussion on this, and they had used the city of San Marcos as an example, that did things well in terms of having alleys, and a good way to have control over subdivisions in the city and the ETJ to kind of bind the developer to not have this sort of issue with having smaller lots, because smaller lots are discouraged within the community, whether it's ETJ or city. So I think we can definitely look into that, but I think right now, I don't think we have even a zoning district that would even allow, like inside the city limits, for lots this tiny. So,
Right, but in the ETJ, right, this isn't the zoning.
correct.
It's regarding the width of the street, right? And so you mentioned it was 9 feet?
So experience is 108 inches wide for a typical commercial vehicle. So that's 9 feet.
Right.
And that's only 9 feet. That's not maneuverable space.
Correct.
So
And
it-
so if you're looking at a street that is 32 feet wide, you're assuming that there's a 6-foot wide vehicle on this side, a 6-foot wide vehicle on that. Is that still enough space for that fire truck to maneuver in, right? That's where I wonder, because again, ambulances can get in, that's not the problem, it's a fire truck.
And that's
Right.
assuming that they're smaller vehicles. That
Well,
is,
that's
that
true.
is
They
not,
could be
it could,
3F50s,
it could be a
right?
dually or something,
Correct.
you know.
Yeah, well, it also has to do with ingress and egress and just control of congestion, right? We don't want to block people in, and you want to make sure you have adequate space for all vehicles and all families. If you do have 4 to 6 cars per house, which seems to be the average nowadays, and you're shortening these parking spaces, the driveways to like 2 cars, and so I understand. I know, I definitely get where you're coming from. When we get our packets, that is something that if you can grab their attention before, then they do have time to get that research in a little bit. But we do appreciate, Mr. Spencer said he'll bring some to the city council, because obviously this is the second one we've seen just in 2 months. And so if it keeps getting built out in the ETJ, then this is going to keep coming to us. There's something else that we kept coming to us that I can't remember. Where was it? Cupping the there was something, ADUs, something that we keep seeing like this pattern. It's starting to come. And so we need to kind of prepare for all of it and not just keep having it come every single time. Maybe we need to do some updating. Mr. Thompson, did you have anything?
No, ma'am.
And then Mr. Hines?
just even if we did have 20 feet of open asphalt in the middle of the road, you've created a one-way street. So if you're following the bus, you're following the UPS truck, the garbage truck, fire is a perfect reason to have this ordinance. But anytime you have anything other than a personal vehicle driving down the road, now you've effectively created a one-way street. So there was a reason that council, that there had to have been a reason. We have to trust why did they go back in 2018 and reconsider this. And so it has to have been a good reason for it then. And so I'm trusting that judgment now.
Yeah, correct. And so just to finalize variances, and I love, again, the city did a great job with this revised statement, show why we would grant variances, and so far they don't meet any of the criteria. So if we just want to kind of bring it back into, do they meet the criteria to support the variance? No, they don't. So if anyone has a motion to make for a recommendation, and again, it will go to city council and they will get to decide in a couple weeks. Yeah, I always like to go back to the agenda because then you can take from there. So 8A.
Well, yes, so I'm looking at it, and I'm going to make a motion to deny the waiver request based upon based upon the ordinance that the city has adopted, which is ordinance, he gave it to us.
The UDC code section 19.4, block design,
Correct.
or was it the other one? Because I think the new one had, oh, that was the DCM's, General
It's
Street
ordinance
Guidelines.
1261 passed in April of 2019.
Okay, sorry, one more time, Ms. Weimer. You'd like to make a motion to recommend?
I would like to make a motion to deny the waiver request based upon the fact that it does not meet with ordinance 1261 passed in April 23 of 2019 or section 19.4 of UDC, which requires alleys for lots less than 60 feet wide. Allowing such a waiver without satisfying the criteria in section 20.1.11 would undermine the intent and purpose of these requirements as outlined in the UDC and supporting ordinances.
All right, I have a motion. Can I get a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, starting with Ms. Weimer.
Aye.
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 Who seconded?
Ms. Garcia. Yes, okay. Okay, thank you, commissioners. We will move on to item 8B, which is discussion and action regarding a proposed amendment to the land study of the Steel Creek subdivision.
I just wanted a little bit of clarification on the motion. I wanted to provide some clarification. The waiver was to the requirements listed in 19.4? Yes. Okay, just making sure it's, okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. We can move on. Thank you. Yes, so this is land study. It will look very familiar to you. It was tabled at the November 13th, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting. This is for the Steel Creek subdivision land study. So as a reminder, a land study serves as the first introductory plan of a proposed subdivision. The term master plan is synonymous with land study and general plan under the UDC, so if you see those words just kind of used, interchanged. So on June 26, 2018, the City of Cibolo Council approved a land study of Steel Creek subdivision. According to the applicant's letter, included as an attachment to the staff report, the intent of this amendment is to accommodate the revision to the city's master thoroughfare plan and to provide larger lot sizes. So the proposed amendments to the approved land study are as follows. One, it revises the land plan, platting order, acreage, and lot count for units 4A, 4B, 6, 7, 9, and 10. And there's a table there showing the differences between the acreages and the lot counts and size. So 2, it revises the land use lot size of Unit 10 from 25-foot townhome lots to 60-foot mixed-density residential lots. It removes the 150-foot right-of-way reservation and proposes parkland dedication for a portion of the removed right-of-way. It removes the western 80-foot right-of-way proposed collector road on the right-of-way dedication and adds a preliminary location for the proposed north-south collector road according to the MTP. Updates to the land study exhibit indicate the development that is currently under construction and provide the recording document for number of units that are already recorded. So staff and the city have reviewed the proposed land study and amendment, associated documents. Per the attached review memo, all outstanding comments have been resolved. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this land study amendment. If you have any questions, staff and the applicant are here.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have anything for staff? And we do have an applicant here, or okay? Yes, okay. And can I get could you come up for a minute and just give me your name? That way if I have a question, I can call on you.
Yes, hi. Good evening, Ashley Fairmont with Killing Griffin in Fairmont. I was here at the last meeting, so.
Ashley Fairmont?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Ms. Fairmont. We'll call you up if we need you.
Okay, thank you.
I remember this from the last time it was here, and I think the discussion was that there was an issue about trees in that common area. Is that resolved to the city's satisfaction? Are they going to plant trees in there, or they decided that, or did you negotiate and kind of come to a compromise?
Yeah, we came to a compromise, kind of like what we mentioned at the last meeting. Let's see if we can pull up the map. So in regards to the trees, the trees were to be located along the rear of Unit 9. As you can see, there's that indication for the north-south connector that's running back there through the Town Creek Trail. What we came to the compromise was, obviously we're in the middle of having an amendment to their public improvement agreement, and so what we came to the compromise was that at the plating, at the recordation of Unit 9, that area that is currently owned by the developer will be dedicated to the city. So the city will maintain that area as part of the Town Creek Trail project and will be responsible for planting of trees as well as the maintenance of that area.
Thank you.
Ms. Dodd? Nothing. Ms. Garcia?
The only question I have is the one I had last time about the lights at that area, and I know that we had talked about that it was dependent on how much. It wasn't something that we determined. Do you know we're still on track for the light in that area, or do you know where it's traffic light exiting?
The traffic light. Oh, that's a good question. I don't recall.
The only concern is that that is really a heavily congested area
Right.
to get out of. And so since I travel it all the time, I see a lot of near misses and, adding 60 more homes. So it really needs a light.
Yes, and
to get out of that area.
I agree. And if I'm not mistaken, and Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, a traffic signal is a part of the public improvement agreement. And with that traffic signal, there will be some cost sharing in terms of the developer pays their share, the city pays their share, and then it's tied to a certain amount of, I believe, lots that are built out. So there is a trigger component for the traffic signal. So whenever that is triggered, and I can get you the specifics, I can follow up with you after this meeting, Ms. Garcia, on the specifics for that traffic light. But I do know that it is included in that PIA that the city is.
And you did mention that last time, but
Right.
I didn't know we were closer to the number that we would need
Right.
to ensure that the light was going to be going up sooner rather than later. And the only reason I ask is coming out of Steel, that light was supposed to have a turn light for a while, and it actually just got it. So, my concern is just the traffic, and there's so many kids that don't pay attention, are crossing for both ways, and that's my main concern.
Got it. Yeah, we'll make sure whenever, because the PIA amendment has not been finalized, so that is definitely something that we can follow up on with Ashley and her team as a talking point to make sure that it's ready and to go to city council whenever this land study and the PIA go together.
Well, I appreciate that, because not, the 60-car families aren't gonna come in right away, but
Right.
the trucks and everything else that has to come in, that's gonna make more traffic also. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Fairmont, do you mind coming up for a minute? If that's okay, commissioners, I'm gonna cut in. Do you have a little bit more information that you can kind of lend us on some of the questions that are already kind of being asked?
Sure. So first thing on the lot count, I do want to highlight it's not that many, but we are reducing the lots. So that unit 10, a main part of our amendment, it's currently zoned or designated on the land use plan for townhomes. And we're changing that to single-family lots, to larger single-family lots. So it's 60-foot wide lots, but there's only 40 of them as opposed to the townhome lots, which are 88. So we're actually going down a little bit in lot count. Regarding the space behind Unit 9 and the trees, yeah, what we came to agreement with was the city doesn't really know when that major thoroughfare is going to be built or where exactly it was going to be located. So it made the most sense to dedicate or deed to the city all of the property so that they have the flexibility to put the road in the future where it makes the most sense. And, there was a concern about planting trees in the floodplain and how do we do that. And so all of that will kind of get worked through when the city engineers the road. So I think that's a good compromise for everybody and gives the city a bit more control over what happens. Regarding the light, that's something we'll have to look at. Part of the agreement was also had to do with the light at Steel. So I know that's just, you're just seeing that now, but that kind of goes back, this started a while ago. So I don't know about a new signal, but it's something we'll work with Aaron on and, look again at those traffic counts. But hopefully, there will be new houses coming, but not quite as many. So.
That's a question that I had was the being changed to the 60-foot mixed density residential lots. What is your definition of mixed density? You said it's...
I think they're all called mixed density, and there's a little bit of medium density, but that's the land use types. If you look at the plan, that's just what we're calling them, single family.
Okay, so your lot size, though, it's going to be 60 foot. It's
wide.
Not townhomes at all. So in those 60-foot lots, it will be single family, no duplex, no...
Right.
Those little small micro apartments that they're calling houses right now, they're building up on Cibolo Valley Drive by Shirts. There's all these different
They're built to
styles.
rent
So
or single family
that's
rentals.
I'm kind of looking to see what your actual definition of mixed density. So like a single family.
I don't really know why it's called that, but that's what it was called in the original plan, but it's single family.
Single family home, okay. Okay, I will jump back to Ms. Fishback. Do you have any questions? Okay.
No questions.
So thank you for, because my question, first one was on the mixed density. The second one is the 150-foot right-of-way. So was that an allowance for the one-time proposed toll road that's going away?
So when the plan was adopted originally in 2018, the proposed road was, yes, that on the other side of the project. That's not happening. The city's new major thoroughfare plan came in, and the road shifted, not the toll road, different road. And so we don't know exactly how big or anything it's going to be, so that's why we said, here you go. Here's all of the rest of Unit 9, so that the city can, work in the future. I think it's a while out before that road is constructed, is my understanding. But then it'll be there, or the property will be there when the city's ready.
Okay, so I'm seeing it on page, your example map is E24.2. So was that makes me think it was allowance for the toll road that might have happened at one time, but doesn't. Does that make sense to you? At any rate.
It makes sense to me. Yeah, yes.
In that map, that road over there, that road won't ever happen. So you're not having to allow for it.
No, that's why we're taking it off the land use plan also.
Okay.
And it's showed as that new green park space.
It's over here. It's the next, if y'all can forward it to the next map on the big screen.
Yep,
To the
that's
right.
the old one. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the old map.
Yeah,
Or
this is from
land study.
2018. I was gonna say, the one you guys have up is from 2024, 25?
Yeah. So
This is the new one.
this is the proposed amendment, and then, again, this was the old one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And really quick, I just want to circle back to Ms. Garcia and her question about the traffic signal. I do have the PIA up, and it says for the traffic signal, on or before final city's preliminary acceptance of Unit 5 infrastructure, developers shall conduct or cause to be conducted a traffic signal warrant study for the intersection, bless you, of FM 1103 and Knights Crossing, provided that the traffic study has not already been completed by the city. And then it just keeps going on and so forth. So I think, yeah, we can definitely look into that a bit more, like you had mentioned, just to tidy up some of that language, just to make sure that, one, we're doing what was originally requested in the PIA, and two, if there's anything additional that we can do to accommodate the current concerns, because obviously this PIA was drafted probably back in 2018 as well. That I think we're in a good spot to do so at this point in time.
Didn't we used to attach the PIAs to the commissioners' packets, or do we have to specifically ask for that?
So I know PIAs, like right now, I believe the PIA for Steel Creek is most likely just going to go straight to city council. I don't know about previously what was done, but I believe that is the direction that we were given, is that they're just going to go straight to council for that.
Commissioners,
Oh, the previous?
I know there was a previous one a few months ago that I think I did have to ask for it, but we didn't used to have to ask for it. But again, we switched from using SharePoint to just going straight to these links with these PDF packets. I don't know, I guess commissioners, if you feel you need the PIA, I guess we're gonna need to ask for it. Or I'll try to notice, or maybe Ms. Garcia, someone we can try to notice if it's gonna be something bigger like this. That would be nice to have that comparison, because that might have helped in answering some of these questions. Okay, gotcha.
If I could just ask a question, show my inability to remember all these acronyms. TIA, Traffic Impact Analysis. PIA is?
Public Infrastructure Agreement.
Thank you.
Yes, so we'll add that to our little thing. So I know, and I used to be much better. I'm sorry, I will go back to making sure I have it out there. But yeah, PIA, the Public Infrastructure Agreement. And then Aaron, Mr. Spencer, really quick, can you list off the PIA will cover what? It'll cover parkland dedication, it'll cover, can you list all those off? Because I don't have them off the top of my head. I know them right here.
Yes, ma'am. So we have transportation, specifically for Steel Creek, Tolly Road improvements, drainage impact fees, traffic signal, FM 78 sanitary sewer improvements, as well as off-site public improvements.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of leaning towards, I feel like those need to be included back, or at least have access to them. Maybe you don't have to put them in the PDF, but I really liked when we had SharePoint, because it gave the commissioners the option to click on all these different things, and it didn't necessarily mean, I'm not asking you to print a 40-page, PIA, Public Infrastructure Agreement, or even a traffic analysis, because the traffic analysis can be like 200 pages or something too, but it would be nice to have access to that again. Can we get that on just a side note?
Of course, yeah, we can definitely incorporate that.
Gotcha.
I appreciate y'all letting us know about that. So yeah, we can definitely incorporate that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm?
If there is, I think we've all had our turn. We've spoke with Ms. Fairmont. Anything else before we make a motion? Okay, does anybody have a motion they would like to start? Anyone? No? No? Yeah. Yep, go for it.
I move to make a motion to approve the land study amendment.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay. And let me go back to my agenda here. Thank you. I will be circling back to the city on the trees and the maintaining of stuff because I feel like I've heard this before. Just putting that out there. Okay. Let's see. I know I don't want to get off topic here. Item 9 is our UDC CIP master plan and staff updates.
Good evening, commissioners. So some site plans that we currently have under review is 504 File, that's a tattoo studio. Cibolo Creek Center is the gas station, Andy's Frozen Custard, 506 North Main, as well as Borgfeld Plaza Retail. Plats currently under review are 504 File, that's a minor plat. Owl Subdivision, a minor plat as well. Bella Rosa Unit 4, as well as the Cibolo Crossing Multifamily Amenity Center. So just a recap on some of the previous actions that you all had considered that are moving forward. The old Weiderstein self-storage facility, you all had recommended for approval back in August of last year. That was tabled at City Council. We have been working with the applicant, Mr. Eccles. His intent is to come back to City Council on the 28th. So we should hear, or at least know of something by y'all's next meeting in February on the status of that. The Still Creek land study, y'all just considered that. That was tabled at the previous meetings, a few meetings ago, and y'all obviously just recommended approval. That will proceed accordingly. The Shriver Track land study and the variance that accompanied it, at your December meeting, y'all recommended denial. That is moving forward to State Council next week. So similar requests that you all had considered today with the Neal Track. We'll see kind of what City Council's view of the variance or waiver that we're having to put forward to them to see if that's still their intent to have that as a requirement in the UDC. 2090 Fonsdale Lane, you all had recommended approval back in November. That is proceeding to City Council next week as well. Same thing goes for 210 and 633 Tolly Road with the rezone from C3 to SF1. City Council will consider that next week. Legacy Traditional School replat, that was recommended for denial. There were still some outstanding comments on that one at the time of the P&Z meeting in December. The applicant did submit an extension letter request today. So instead of going to City Council next week, the applicants requested to go to City Council in January 28th. And so the same thing applied to the Venado Crossing Unit 6. The applicant recently submitted an extension letter for their plat, so that won't go until January 28th as well.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
So we'll just use the Legacy School replat for an example. So there were outstanding documents, therefore we denied it. But since it's going to go to council, we don't get that. We really don't have a say. We don't have a discussion about it. We don't come back up. We don't talk about it again. So I'm supposing that if we had any kind of reservations about it, we should have stated all that, even though it would be a denial, but we don't have a motion per se from this body that addresses any true concerns about whatever a situation might be.
Right.
So is it a legal matter that even though it's denied simply because of documentation, that it just goes straight to council? Or is it a better route that it comes back to P&Z for a discussion once the documentation has been cleared up, that it comes back for a full discussion at P&Z, then goes to council? It seems like it could almost be an end around
All right.
by not getting P&Z's input.
Right.
I'm going,
Yeah, I mean, different communities have it set up differently. I've seen it in previous cities that I've worked for where honestly only it stops at P&Z. It doesn't even go to city council. I've seen where P&Z is the last body that has final say on plats. So it just goes straight to P&Z and P&Z has that that authority to not make a recommendation but have final decision on it. So the way how it's set up here, yeah, it is in our UDC for it to go from you all as a recommending body to city council as the next step. So I think that is something that we can definitely look into in terms of our UDC rewrite. That's coming up and hopefully also kicked off here this month in terms of what it would look like and what the community has an appetite for in terms of plats and how they're approved. Because I think even some of our neighbors, from what we've heard, whenever we had some discussions with the city of Schertz, and I also heard from the city of Seguin, their planning team, they review and approve plats administratively. So they don't even go to P&Z or council. So different communities do it very differently, and that's obviously just due to a recent Texas legislative bill that was passed that you know they have that discretion now. But even before that, a previous city I worked for, it was just going to P&Z. So who knows? I mean, we'll definitely have to take a poll and to see what the pulse of the community is in terms of trying to see what would work best for the community. But I do agree with you, Mr. Hines, in terms of what would be the best avenue forward for, especially for P&Z. If y'all feel like it's within your discretion and within your purview in terms of having that sort of authority and having that for plats, we can definitely explore that.
it just, you know, I had the thought
Right.
that it could be some of these could be fairly major, and it could be playing the system.
Right.
We only need one approval,
Right.
so
Terry,
all we're gonna do is
Terry,
just,
could you bring up something excellent, because it'll go into training. One of my questions was, you know, do a diagram as to when we come to certain things. And my question is, would it have been better to have tabled it like we did this other, the one that we just reviewed with Steel
Yeah.
Creek? Would it have been better to table it until all the documentation and then have it come back to us as a review?
I'm thinking out loud.
And
I
then
hear you.
and then go forward from there. So it's understanding our own procedures.
Yeah, council, you know, it just still is the final say by council, but if we table it, is it the shot clock that's driving this?
Right.
Because even if we table, or we deny, or whatever we do, or we didn't do because we didn't have the documentation,
Right.
it's still the shot clock.
Correct.
That determines it no matter what, no
Yes,
matter what
sir.
we want to say or do.
That's
Yeah, it does
correct.
seem like a small loophole, like a little workaround, and I didn't think about that till you brought that up. We moved from being an approving body to a recommending body for a reason. I don't remember that reason, but if I heard it, I would remember it and be like, that's why, and it was a good thing. There was a reason. And again, commissioners are always welcome to attend city council meetings or to email them or, you know, have conversations. We are allowed to go to the citizens to be heard as well.
Or watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, well, if that's a lot of work to go back and find, but yes, I'm sure.
No, actually, if you set a notification, I have it set so that it always pops up. Yeah, even.
But I'm
this
just saying,
meeting-
I wouldn't know where that stemmed from, what year, what meeting, that we moved.
Oh, for that meeting.
Yeah, when the discussion came up to have planning and zoning move from an approving body to a recommending body. So, but it is something that might be a good, yeah, it's something to think about. And since we are learning more about the difference between tabling and postponing, there are some good options there as well. So I appreciate that. Yeah, okay. Yes, and also I didn't realize until just now when I looked on my calendar that yes, normally city meets before we do, but we started
Yeah.
a funny month because I kept thinking, why are they meeting next week? But that's right. So, so this is kind of an oddity that we don't have some of these answers, but gotcha. Okay, thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Yeah, and I just wanted to really quick give another staff update. Obviously, y'all noticed that we're no longer having Grant on our team. He had a really great opportunity, and he was a big addition to the team. but just wanted to let y'all know that he's moved on. However, we do have a new addition, Mr. Rick Vasquez, as the new Planning and Economic Development Director. I didn't know, Rick, if you wanted to speak for a little bit and introduce yourself?
Just a little bit, I promise I won't take much time. My name is Rick Vasquez. I'm excited to be here with the city of Cibolo, and I appreciate the opportunity the citizens are giving me to serve your community. I'm originally from San Antonio. My career has taken me all over Texas for the last 25 years, and so this is home now, and I'm looking forward to working with a great staff. We have 3 divisions with it. I'll be working with the Planning Department, the Economic Development Department, and code enforcement, and all that will require a lot of work to deal with a lot of the legislative changes you were just talking about right now. Aaron was right on point that most cities in Texas allow their planning commission to be the final authority. In fact, the legislative statutes now governing your activity require that the planning commission be the final authority. So it'll be an issue that we tackle when we deal with the UDC rewrite. You'll be getting an entirely new development code, and hopefully the planning commissioners will want to participate on the committee that's driving the decision-making in the formulation of the new code. So we look forward to working with y'all on that project over the next year. We have a project kickoff with the consultant next week, I believe, and then we'll publish a schedule on how we plan to move forward with developing your new code and bring it into compliance with state law. The unfortunate thing is the Texas legislature meets every 2 years, and they change the rules, and they've been chipping away at your authority, the planning commissions across the state and city commissions across the state ability to regulate development. So every 2 years, they're peeling back the authority that local governments have and transferring that authority to the state level. And so we'll see what happens this legislative session. It's just kicked off right now, but as we write the code, we'll be monitoring what's happening in Austin to make sure we have a code that's consistent with new laws that are coming down this year as well. So with that, we got a lot of work to do together, and I look forward to working with all of y'all. And if you want to come by or invite me out for coffee, I'll be glad to come sit down, talk to you about planning and development, everything I know about it, plan to share with these folks. And you're going to have a training, I understand, tonight, but I would also offer that once you finish this training, if you'd like, we can always bring in attorneys that have spent a lot of time working in zoning specifically and subdivisions, and bring them in for a day-long workshop, because I know it's a big topic, and doing it a couple of hours in the evening is kind of difficult to tackle all those issues. But if you want to do a one-day workshop either on Saturday or someday during the week, we can work on a schedule, and we'll get together the funding and bring that attorney in to come and work with y'all for a whole day. Thank you all. Look forward to working with y'all.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Vasquez, I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
So, can you say that one more time? Your position is what? I feel like you said 3 different things.
Planning, economic, and code enforcement director. I guess that would be reflect.
All 3 of those
all
in
3
one.
of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Staff updates. Next is our item 10, which is our subcommittee update and the phase 1 of commissioner onboarding. And looks like we're going to have a slideshow. Oh, there was that EDC report. I saw you guys skim past that really quick, but I think commissioners, are we good? We can read that on our own. We don't have any questions. If you do, please reach out. Okay, so yes. Is that someone from the subcommittee doing this, or is the city staff? We're just rolling through it. What's the plan? All right, well, we'll just
All right, I'll take it on.
fire away.
I'll take it on. And I'll do it from here, from the big table. So just to catch you up, Mr. Vasquez, what we were started our reason for trying to create this training process. Thank you. Oh, I hit that one. Okay. So as commissioners, when we all came on the commission, we just felt like we were just having to go find answers, drink from the fire hose. not only just trying to learn codes and how to read the UDC and these sorts of things, but oftentimes, how do you operate in a meeting, within a meeting? And how can you be a commissioner? What are your responsibilities, your roles? What are your limitations? Those sorts of things. So that's what we're starting off with right here. So the phase one of how to be a commissioner. And so it's just this one's really, really basic. So our intentions are, and so the subcommittee is myself, Mr. Thompson, and Ms. Fishbeck. And so our intentions are to come up with 2 more training modules that will, the second one be a little more in-depth about planning and zoning in and of itself. And then the third one, just a deeper dive into that. And there's a lot of resources we've been looking into and things we can pick up from TML or APA, and certainly looking forward to your input on these things as well to help give us a greater sense of direction to bring new commissioners on faster, be a more educated board, commission. And so with all of that,
Step one.
Someone want to tell him where he aims? Poor guy. Which way?
I went everywhere and I hit those 2 and nothing happened. See, it wasn't me.
Oh, you guys don't know either.
Tap it on the table. That works every time.
Oh, there you go.
Woohoo!
So,
All right, you have been
where's the
selected.
sensor? Is it back
Yeah.
here then? You have to aim it. So it was a placebo.
yeah,
They thought
next.
you were in control. But
We'll just say next. I'm good with next. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so next. Next.
okay, he's
Next.
gonna holler next
Yeah,
at you.
Next. I don't know. Thank you so much. So this is some guidance we received from our doggone, I don't know why I can never remember the term for this. What is the term from this, the big document we just all worked through and approved?
The comprehensive plan?
Thank you very much.
Yes,
I
sir.
can't comprehend comprehensive plan. And so this is just some really good guidance on how to keep us focused, on where to go. Why are we here? And some assistance on how to lead our thoughts about as we're working through the process of understanding, applying rules to requests, taking requests, and how do they fit within the guidelines that we have. Next. This was, Lindsay was kind enough to help me find this. We don't have a mission statement as a Planning and Zoning Commission. The council worked through that. And mission statements can be a practice that can take an hour or 6 weeks to create. I've seen them both ways. But it's just simply, why are we here? How do we do it? And who are we here for? And so this is basically that is our purpose for being here. Next. This is straight from our charter. Just something to be cognitive of. Don't want to be taking special advantage of your responsibilities here as a commissioner. This applies to anyone who is an employee of the city, but any volunteer, council, commissioner, EDC, any of our other parks and such as that, all of our boards. Good information to know and read and know. Next. And so these are some guidelines that I didn't write these things. I went to that infamous Google and I found these straight from guidances from Robert's Rules of Order and such as that, and running good meetings. So parliamentary procedure really is how do we follow the process of conducting our meeting. And I've got to tell you, this is really a good group. You've been doing a fine job of this. Understanding and wanting to participate in a professional manner and working through whatever our subject matter is at any meeting in a kind manner, professional manner, direct, positive manner. we'll all get the opportunity to read these. I'm sure you've all read this as you were studying your agenda items tonight. Negative and positive motions, it really is. Even if you're denying something, you want to make a positive statement. I recommend that we deny this request rather than saying something kind of mushy like, well, I don't think we should do this. We just want to make certain with our language what is our intent of our motion. Next.
Oh, I'm going to pull you back really quick. This was the section, I think, where we thought it might be appropriate to add the understanding of the agenda and
Okay.
adding a copy of example agenda so that we understand, because that is part of our basic rules. As commissioners, I didn't understand the point of an agenda for like 3 meetings and didn't understand you can't just raise your hand from anywhere. You can't just shout out from the audience because you're here. You're not in, it's for the commission. So is that the appropriate section under this basic rules, Terry, that we would add an agenda and an agenda example?
I might place, as far as just going through the slideshow, I might place it just before this. Here's the agenda, and then we explain how we follow the agenda,
Okay.
how we participate in the meeting.
And when we as commissioners can speak on what topics?
Yes. And the fact, and somewhere in the verbiage here, we do cover the fact that you can only speak to what's on the agenda. Yeah, we do that. So thinking out loud, maybe we could take, if it'd be okay if we just copy an old agenda rather than trying to make something up, just copy it and then, put watermark over it for training purposes, something like that. And then we just walk through there and as new commissioners are coming on, we can explain what each of these, really what a lot of people will struggle with, in my estimation, is the difference between public speaking, public comments, and the
Well, I know in one of our first meetings.
the public hearing.
We tried to speak during public speaking.
Yeah.
So coming on as a new commissioner, no, you're not going to know that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and then my understanding, staff, was that I know we're going through this training today, right? But as we kind of were going through it, like I had noticed this section was kind of missing and I thought it was important. And I know I probably should have done it previous, but until you kind of go through it, because we are just establishing it. So if there's a way to make a note, and if Terry and you guys can get together and then add those 2 pieces in, I've got, I think, like 2 more areas, like small little things. And then I guess, would we put our stamp on it as like final, or is this more of a living document and it can be amended?
How do y'all want to say it? Do you want to just say, hey, we added it in at this space on the presentation, we're good? Or do y'all want to see it again? Do you want to see proof that it was added?
Make sure when you're doing this too, that remember, you're not doing totally Robert's Rules of Order, because the city has, and you all received a copy of how the city conducts the meetings, and you can't deviate from those either. And so you need to make sure that you keep that into.
Oh, yeah, I have that up here too. It's, okay, so I have for staff and the subcommittee, I have City Council Policy Directive 2024-1. I have understanding agenda, or like a how-to agenda 101, so we all understand, like, yes, the commissioners don't speak during the public hearing. I have, and then adding a example agenda, because maybe some people have never even seen an agenda, so it'd be nice to have that in there as part of your training packet.
I'm okay if we make a notation to add those items into the training packet and then not see it again. Understanding that, like you said, we're all professional. We can trust that you're going to do what's
Oh,
best
yeah,
for the.
but definitely before a new commissioner comes on, if or when, because obviously here we've seen agendas, we've got all these topics in, but it needs to be done, rather soon, so that if someone new does come on next month or the month after, or whenever, then they have this full, complete.
Let me know if I'm incorrect in this, but I believe that our intentions are to be able to create a easy-to-find library of links for these sorts of things. So that's where we need to be working together about where can we put this so it's easy to find and doesn't get lost when the commission changes. So, thank you. Okay, noted, duly noted. Example agenda with explanations of the different parts and pieces of the agenda, such as the difference between citizens to be heard and public hearing. Yeah, and our area of participation in neither of those. All right, so next. More basic rules. Once a motion is shared, it does need to be seconded. We do have our discussions, and then you have a motion and a second. You can have further discussion on that, and if you don't agree with the motion, you could ask the person who made the original motion, is this truly what your, clarification, is this truly what your motion intends? We rarely have those issues, but you can change a motion. It has to be the person that made the motion to change it, but it can be changed before the final vote is taken. Only one person should speak at a time. It's not only, it's just rude. And I'm sorry, because sometimes words start coming out of my mouth before someone else is finished. I'm not doing it intentionally, cut anybody off. But it's called a discussion, and the greatest part of a discussion is the listening part of it. All members have the equal rights. The moderator is our chair or vice chair, whoever is running the meeting. You need to make your intentions clear. Try to be concise. The more direct or concise you can be in your comments, the less likely you are to be misunderstood, I believe. Free debate for everything that comes before the council, and the rights of the minority have to be protected. Everybody gets the opportunity to speak. It doesn't matter, because you may be the only one that was thinking this way, but now you've offered something very pertinent, and we just need to appreciate and support everyone. Parliamentary procedure, it's a tool. Okay, it's rules, it's guidelines, but it's not. It's like that says, it's not a bludgeon. You don't want to be slamming a hammer on somebody because you think they've spoken too long, or you don't like the road they're going down. Next. I just highlighted some of the areas that we would typically come through. Robert's Rules of Order is a guideline, and our motions all really just they're derived from Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's was actually created for very large governing bodies, church, national church councils, or federal and state legislative bodies, those sorts of things. But I highlighted these, and then we come on down to the, there's a second sheet of the Robert's Rules of Order cheat sheet, and then we go on down to a general explanation. So next and next, you have any questions on these motions? So next and next, with just kind of an idea, discussion about what those motions mean. A lot of times, we are humans. Let's take number 4, for example. It's really easy to get a little off topic. And then next thing you know, you're chasing a bunny down another trail and down another trail and down another trail. And if our chair is part of that rabbit chase, any of us can bring up a point of order or say, please, can we get back on topic? And because we've come off agenda, and we need to refocus our discussions. So.
And please note, as chair, I'm not trying to be rude or cut anyone off, but I don't think I've had to do it very often. But there is a time when I am going to be like, hey, we're off topic, so we can talk about it a different meeting or something. So.
Well, that's why we re-voted you back in.
Thanks. Thanks. I promise I'll be nice, but I'll be like,
Yeah. It's rare, but really, We don't have executive session listed on this agenda, Peggy. I guess it would be rare. I've always operated kind of under the guideline that you could call for executive session at any time if there's certain, certain concern about it, but I don't know that.
Yeah, there's rules.
So if you wanted to, if there was something on the agenda that needed to have the attorney present, then staff would need to know about it ahead of time for the attorney to be here. Because you cannot go into executive session without an attorney. That's the purpose of an executive session.
Yes.
An opinion or from the city attorney on an item before you make a decision.
So that, do you want a subcommittee, do you want to add that in before we final format it, something about executive session and get the criteria so we know when we can call it?
Can that be on the sample agenda?
Oh, microphone.
Sorry, can that be on the sample agenda?
The
Have a-
criteria
Yeah,
that says you have to have an attorney present?
Correct.
Like a little
Can-
comment box or something, maybe?
We just,
Yeah, that agenda item's going to say, it has to give, and I can give you a sample agenda of an EDC or a P&Z meeting that they did go into executive session. So it would have
Yep.
the listing of what has to be, what we have to put on it for you to be able to do that. And just a generic one, a reason why they had to go back. And then when you come back in, that's when you take action on the item or you go back to that item. And I can give you an example. I'll send you one so that you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, if you could send that can you send it to the 3 subcommittee members? Or you're trying to send it to everybody?
I can send it to everyone, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, that's fine. Sure, perfect. Okay.
I'm just thinking out loud that maybe we just rewrite number 7 instead of saying if you believe there's a reason, is that it's been just rewrite it to say for legal concerns, whatever it is, the right words. To not give the impression that you can just call for executive session. We'll just
Sure.
say, just rewrite number 7.
It's just like executive session can be called in the following situation.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that works. So you'll rewrite number 7, but Ms. Peggy's still going to send the information out. Perfect. Okay.
Good, thanks. Next. This has just always been kind of a little pet peeve for me. It's not the end of the world, but there are differences. There are differences between postponing an item and tabling an item. And postponing could be that you're going to postpone it to the later in the meeting. You're going to postpone it to a definite date. You can postpone an item indefinitely, which is you're saying that we never want to see this again. So this won't ever come back. This motion, this item won't come back. We're a little tighter here because such as the shot clock and such as that, things that we have to deal with. But to table an item really means you want to lay it on the table and you're going to pick it up again later. How picky do we want to get about this? It bothers me, but it's not the end of the world when there's a motion to table something to next month. But it is what it is. Okay, next. Any questions?
Is there a time frame on how long it can be tabled?
No, you would have to, there's really not, but because of the subject matter we deal with, you probably have a calendar date to hit, something in 30 days, 60 days, something to that effect. We're probably a tighter window than council would be. Council could say we want to postpone this for 6 months.
Probably depends on your topic.
Yeah.
Sounds like staff has a little bit. Do you have something to clarify there?
Can't think of a time where you would have an extended tabling with a plat. The way the state statute reads is once an applicant meets the criteria that are established in your adopted code, the plat should be approved by the commission. If there's an issue where the commission felt you needed an extended delay, we'd probably bring an attorney if there's an issue, because you're gonna find yourself in area where the applicant may consult their attorney, and so you should probably have legal representation to discuss that issue. We'll do that, but otherwise, for the most part, plats are, it's a ministerial activity of the commission to make sure that you're complying with the subdivision regulations that are adopted. And in fact, earlier what Aaron was talking to you about, how most communities allow the planning commission to be the final authority on the approval of plats. The legislature has now amended the statutes governing subdivision plats that if the subdivision plats meet the regulations, they're staff approved. And only when there's a violation or an exception or a variance request are they required to bring the plat to the planning commission for final approval, not to the city commission.
Actually, I find all that very fascinating. Because of the complexity of it, I don't think it should be an onboarding topic. But Terry, you discussed that there would be like further training down the line, like maybe a 3-month and then maybe a 6-month training. And I think that would be awesome for one of those other two, because I think tabling is an excellent tool, especially if planning department comes to us, like in the situation where we didn't have all the documents, where all the documents were not met, and left the commission unable to make a really informed decision, that this would be a tool to use at that time. And understanding the consequences with the timelines and so forth, I think would be excellent training for us.
I think so too. Okay.
But isn't that why we like make motions to have, we follow staff findings to be able to say, yada, 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 boom. And that alleviates, tabling based off of the findings from staff. Because if you table it, like we said, we have a shot clock. Once it's tabled and city council has their time to do, it's still going to go to city council. So I'm wondering, will we be just chasing ourselves in circles?
It could be. I'm having that thought now that maybe with the motion of tabling or postponing it, we would still meet the requirements of the shot clock because we've dealt with it.
Right.
And we say we've dealt with this, but we're not ready to finalize something. So maybe that might meet the requirements of the shot clock. If we do make a motion to table or postpone, we've dealt with it. We're not forwarding it to council.
Is when the application is complete and they've submitted all required documentation. In the review and the approval comments, those are not the same letters, and so if you table and then that table date goes beyond the shot clock, what's termed the shot clock or the automatic approval date, the plat would automatically be approved even if you had it on the table.
Yeah, so that was one of my questions. The shot clock will always apply whether we table or postpone.
Correct.
So tabling and postponing is really not something we should be utilizing often at all, because we're doing a disservice to the community and to the applicants. But for certain situations, obviously we do need to, because there's sometimes something completely missing. But it is more rare, I feel like. But I do appreciate you bringing that up, because the different boards and commissions I'm on, I did not understand the difference between tabling and postponing. I thought it was one. So I do think it's important we understand that, but I don't think it's something we should be using very frequent. So maybe we need to, again, fine tune in the phase 2. Mr. Hines, if you can do a little bit more digging and work with the staff for phase 2, we can get maybe into in-depth on that a little bit.
Yeah. I think we just pretty well are running on a rudimentary understanding of the shot clock, and we don't really know all the.
Well, it's 30 days from the time that it's submitted, so I mean, there's. I don't know.
Well,
okay.
We just tabled that one for Still Creek for 2 months.
Did we table it, or did they pull?
So that was a land study. So land studies and plats, yeah, they're different. There was at one time, plans were considered the same as plats. So they were at one point, like back in early of 2019, following the same 30-day shot clock. But the new state legislative law took plans, like land plans, out of the 30-day shot clock. So they no longer apply for
So
the
that
shot
needs
clock.
to be a
Yeah.
subsection that says it applies only
make a note of
to flat maps.
So we need to know
That's
when
in phase 2
to
or
and
3
when
right
not to.
there, so, yeah.
You know, when to table, when not to table. And basically what I'm hearing everyone says, if it's consensus, just getting the understanding of what is a table, what is to postpone, and then finding how we utilize what we do going forward. Because we're gonna be able to shape the planning and zoning how we want. This is overall like our guideline for our team members, once they get on, to have at least some understanding and background. And then if they need any more training, like we've agreed on, and the quarterly training and so forth, it's too easy to ask the chair, you readily available, or ask Ms. Peggy, hey, if I don't know something, where can I find it? You know what I mean? Utilizing our resources. And since it's been on about a year, all of you are great resources to have because you have the history of what's been going on in the city. And you know, we're on this committee for what, 6 years at most, you know what I mean? So we'll be together for a while so we can really shape this thing. You know, we're in the infancy stages. It doesn't have to be a right now, but kind of right now, you know what I mean?
Yeah, having a guideline base, a foundation.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But there's also, I'm sorry.
You're good.
There's also a guideline of how we can talk and what we can talk about as a commissioner.
Right.
So I think that also needs to be in there also. So we can't be talking about something, you know, so.
That's not on the agenda.
Yeah, there's a little bit
Yeah,
more, so
so-
that's, this second half from the APA, is that coming up
It does.
as well?
It
So
does, yeah.
there is a couple things in there that
Yeah.
we'll let
We
Mr.
can walk through that one pretty quickly as well, and. Yeah. I'm sorry? Yeah. Does anyone need a potty break? Yeah, yeah. So-
Peggy has said about the city already has given us guidelines to follow,
Right.
so it's already guidelines.
Yeah, it's the guidelines, but when you, when we first get on, you may get the guidelines from Ms. Peggy, and sometimes you might need to have something readily available for you as you get your packet to understand, hey, we get 5 days to look at the packet. This is what you need to understand. If I have something I need to bring to the Madam Chair Lady, how do I conduct it professional as we go forward? We know how to be professionals, but the next group may not be at the level of professional as what we have on this team. And so we want to make sure we're passing the torch or passing the baton in the medical field. Hey, we're passing the torch to you guys. This is what we set in place. It's going to be almost a working, what we call a living, breathing document for us. It's nothing that's actually etched out, set in stone. We follow the guidance of the city first, but we still got to give you the tools to say, hey, if Madam Chair Lady is out, you will know how to conduct a meeting and carry it. You know what I mean? So that was, I think, our premise as a team. This is saying, making sure that everyone has the tools to be able to run a meeting if any one of us is out and we have others that step in place. That's the overall goal, to make sure that we're one team of Cibolo with the community in mind. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I interject?
Yes, one more, and then we're going to move on to our
Okay.
APA.
Well, because I did write a letter to be read out at the last meeting since I wasn't here regarding this. And I was, it was 3 a.m. my time while I was watching this. And I was just so elated because definitions of terminologies and acronyms came up. And I was wondering, is that something that you're going to add into that first? Because, we have a new one, which is the conditional use permit. And I'm struggling with that because we've had some things come across here that I know have a conditional use permit, but I'm not understanding what the legal consequences are if there's changes to
Okay,
that
so I
way.
am going to call point of order on this one
Right.
because right now we're working on training for the APA and what's in our packet that
Correct,
we received
and that's
4
why I'm
days
saying
ago.
it's important to have these acronyms.
It is, and it isn't. It is 100%, but that's not what we're working on today. So I would really like us to finish this And if you have questions that are about moral decision or ethical decision or whatever, that stuff is definitely great to get to the subcommittee. I know I have that letter, I read it the other day again, just because I like to remind myself what's coming up on everybody's minds. But it's that letter, do you remember the letter that she had? I have a copy in here, I think.
I don't remember it. So, but this is the type of thing that I think would
Send that
be,
to the subcommittee directly.
no, send it
and
to Peggy.
then-
Send it to Peggy.
Yes, I'm sorry. You have to send it to Miss Peggy. Miss Peggy can send it out, or we have it. I know you handed us a printed copy of her letter, but I don't know if it was in our emails. Was it just printed and handed to us?
It was printed and handed it to you.
Yeah, it was it says, good evening, commissioners, this is this letter right here. Miss Peggy, can you send that out? Do you want me to resend it to you?
Yeah, we sent it out.
Okay, and then we'll incorporate that, but for now, let's stay on the ethical planning and zoning. But yes, we do need to, phase 2 and phase 3 is coming.
Correct,
Yes,
correct.
okay.
And the examples you brought up are ideal for the next couple of phases. You don't want to drown somebody in too many things. So this is, 30 minutes of what did I get myself into for phase 1.
For day one.
Yeah. So this was a free download from the American Planning Association and of our Texas region. So next. Oh, there it goes. My next button is working perfectly. So how do you make your decisions? Yeah. How do you make your decisions over here? And so this is basically, giving us suggestions or guidelines about how do we make our decisions as commissioners. You always have a moral portion to consider. Ethical should be guiding moral, but there are governmental ethics that we do need to follow. There's the ethics code, which is formally written, and we do have this in our charter. Next. And so guidelines, you have your city's code of ethics state. The APA has some ethical principles in planning. The AICP is the American Institute of Certified Planners. They also have a 20-page document of ethics. I didn't print that and include that in any document. And then you have your own moral compass to follow. If we follow the city code of ethics through the AICP code of ethics, we should not have any moral issues with what's coming before us. If we do, then that's make your notes, bring that to your discussion. Okay, next. And just ethics ordinances in general. Any questions on this one? We'll get to the ex parte communications a little later in the presentation. Next. Again, ethics principles and planning. What is the process of planning? Why are we here? And it's pursue and faithfully serve our greater public interest, all of our neighbors. All of our old neighbors, all of our new neighbors, all of our neighbors you don't know they're going to be neighbors yet. How are we planning this city? You have guidelines. How are we working within those guidelines to design and build, the rest of our city? Next. And when we say the planning process, what do we mean? Again, we're going to recognize the rights of all of our citizens. Everybody gets a full and clear and accurate information. If we have questions, let's ask the questions so that everyone, all of us, and anyone who is watching us live or Memorex will understand where we're coming from and how we made our decisions based on that information. And then pay special attention to the interrelatedness of decisions and long-range consequences. Yeah, so it's like, are we making a decision for right now or like earlier? Well, obviously there was a reason this addition to our charter was added. There must have been a concern. So I believe we appreciated that and followed the guidances from our predecessors. Okay, next. And here's our planning process. We are all planners. We have certified planners, professional planners, but we're all planners here. And, you know, I think we had some great conversations that, even on the later hours of the day, keep that gray matter working and really help us out. We need to do our homework so we know how to interpret the plans and ordinances and the codes that we're all speaking to during our meetings. And there's that comprehensive plan thing again. So we all do need to be able to study and remember how to say comprehensive plan on a regular basis. Any questions? Next. This is the thought process. So you have the internal plan process that our professionals here, our certified planners, walk through that process. What the public sees, so you want to be, I don't want to say you want to be careful about what you're presenting, but you want to know what you're presenting. You want to know what you're talking about because there is a perception. And you know, if you're following the rules, following the guidelines, staying on track, then the perception will be that we're staying on track, we're following the rules, staying within our guidelines. Next. And some good interpretations of what our role truly is. We develop and update the comprehensive plan. We've just participated in that. Land use patterns, we dealt with that in the last two meetings. Current zoning ordinances, we don't really, what am I trying to say, prejudge or something like that, but we do deal with them as they come to us. Yeah, and there's really not a lot that we could do other than make a recommendation. We're seeing this issue, we could send that recommendation on to council, and council ultimately makes the decision about do we need to make any revisions in zoning languages. Make recommendations for annexation. As of today, it would only be if a particular parcel of land is being requested by that owner, the ownership of that property, requesting to be annexed into the city. The legislator, the previous legislation does not allow cities to annex. What's the word I'm looking for? Purposely annex, I guess you'd say right now. And then proper ways to interface with our public. How do we visit with our friends and neighbors about the subject matter? And if it's a subject matter of the Planning and Zoning Commission, we do that through public meetings and focus groups and such as that. So, okay, next. Good questions to ask. So, as far as zoning, what is the applicant asking for? What effect will it have on the site? We dealt with these very issues tonight. The subdivision questions, does it meet the requirements of our regulations? Yea or nay? And what should not play a role in our decision making? Just because you know or don't know somebody, or you heard something about a particular company. None of those things. It's just, does it meet the criteria as it's laid out that everyone has to meet? What do the structures look like? Well, you know, do we have architectural control? And in some areas we do. And within our current UDC, there are some areas that we do have some architectural controls over that. One area I'm thinking of right now is the Old Town overlay area. And there's some guidance on how buildings should look, trying to capture and recapture the vintage feel of our Old Town area. Okay, next. Open Meetings Act is a very, very, very crucial part of what we all must know and follow. There's no informal meetings. So it's just simply that. There's no informal meetings. You have to follow the rules. You can't just have the rules this month and then the next month, you know, it's just kind of a laissez-faire, am I saying that right? Way of approaching the discussion. It all has to be within these specific guidelines. Not afraid to talk, not afraid to say anything, or to, broach a subject, but we do have to be on topic with everything that we're talking about. We have to be, our meetings all have to be open to the public, even if they're workshops, those sorts of things. Whenever we all meet, it's a called meeting. I did make a note here when we were talking about the agenda, and along with explaining what an agenda is and the parts of the agenda, the proper postings, the rules for posting an agenda. So we'll include that in our discussion as well, 72 hours before the meeting, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and the Open Meetings Act, the OMA, the Open Meetings Act, you'll hear a lot, is something that you have to have done. Ms. Peggy, a commissioner has to have that certificate in the first 30 days, 60 days. What is the rule on that?
We require the Open Meetings and Public Information Act to be done within 30 days of being appointed to the commission.
Yeah, so that is something that we don't have to get too heavy on there because they'll take the whole
Yeah.
40-minute course, I
Yeah.
think it was,
We
or
just-
something.
Brand new one. Some of you could have taken it a number of years ago because we don't require you to retake it. But there's a brand new speaker on it now.
Yeah,
Because a really old version, maybe 2 years ago, and it's been upgraded.
good. Yeah, so is the, our standard to say within 30 days or within 30 days or before you participate in your first meeting?
Most of the people that get appointed are, it's usually about 30 days before you actually sit at the dais anyways. But as soon as we get appointed, we send it out immediately. And almost everybody that has been appointed gets those done really quick.
Okay.
We haven't had, most people, I think 99% of the people appointed have it done before they sit up at the dais.
Okay, I think would recommend that as some guidance, is please have at least this covered before you participate in a meeting. If there's a way we could do that, I could add that, so. Yeah. We can wish, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Nick? Good. That's great to hear. Yeah. So next. And so these are the practices for allowing our public, all of the public, to understand that there is some sort of change at the ready. So you want to change the land use, you want to change the zoning, those sorts of things. All of these are the steps that have to be taken. So it's something we need to be aware of, but it's not something that we particularly do. This is all staff things. You have to send the notice by mail, newspaper of general distribution, newspapers or legislation hasn't addressed that recently, but there's going to have to be other ways of getting that information out. Notice at the city hall, same sort of thing, 72 hours and those sorts of things, where it's easily accessible from the public. City websites, those sorts of things. We don't really support these types of things on social media yet.
Let's not go down the social media
Yeah.
bunny train. Let's keep
Yeah,
moving.
let's stay away from that one. So, okay, next. Ex parte discussions, that's where only one side is presented. We know that one person has the perfect view of whatever it is they want to talk about. And so you want to be careful, cognizant of the fact that somebody is giving you, that, just that, their take, their opinion, those sorts of things. How should you handle that? So I'll just ask somebody, give me an example. How should you handle that? Ms. Doc.
Okay, so
That's one
like,
way.
so you're saying if somebody calls you up and orally says to you, I'm reading this as a communication that goes out. Like I sent my letter to Peggy to be read out publicly instead of sending it to each of you individually, which would be ex parte.
It could be, but I'm thinking about you're at the grocery store and somebody comes up and say, yeah, I hear there's somebody gonna, there's a rezoning of 427 acres, just outside of town.
That's it.
It's like, well,
That's it right there.
I don't know anything about that. Or if you don't know anything about it, you're telling the truth. I don't know anything about that. Well, if if it's landowner's rights, and if someone owns property and they want to sell it, they have the opportunity to sell it. Those sorts of things, but you can't give any kind of guidance on particular, or have this debate,
You
because,
give almost any kind of comment now spoken for the city, so I don't,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, just,
And that's really the clearest and
now the
most,
city has said.
yeah, absolutely. There you go. There you are, yeah.
Can we offer them to come into the meetings?
Oh, microphones, ladies.
Can we offer to come to the meeting?
sure.
That should be
To
your
address any
probably
concerns.
main focus is to
Well, it's a
contact
public
your.
meeting.
Look on the city council
Yeah.
website when the next meeting is. I would always
Contact city
direct them.
council, yeah.
I will always redirect them back to the city council, to that actual governing body. And that would alleviate you, anybody in here, from saying, well, she told me in HEB when I brought this up, and it'd be all over Facebook. And then all it takes is somebody seeing y'all, having a brief conversation, and you might not have said nothing to the fact, but it gives the appearance that something is wrong is going. So
Yeah.
I would appreciate that.
People are they could assume that you're speaking about a subject matter that might have been discussed in executive session, which we're not supposed to be doing, those sorts of things, even though there wasn't an executive session. It's back to that public perception. Yeah, so that's really is, without just turning and running, it's like these are for walking. Yeah. These are matters that'll be coming to us. Just keep your eyes out for them on the city website and with those sorts of things, and without redirect. Yeah. So, any questions? So a serial meeting or a walking quorum, that's something that I know this body's very careful of and wary of.
That's what she was referring. That would have been potential for if you would have sent that message. I'm sorry to hijack you.
No.
If you would have sent that to everybody in the training that they initially give, and you come and they tell you about the serial meetings and the putting out of information, because when you have 2, 3 together, that's a quorum. Then you got a walking quorum. You go out there, you talk about it. Boom. There.
Yeah.
Everything has to be done in the public eye when we communicate. We already have the channel. Miss Peggy always say, hey, if you have something you want to say, send it to me, then I'll forward the information.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got to keep that in mind and remember that everything here, all your correspondences, everything, it matters. You know what I'm saying? What you do outside this office, outside the dais, it truly matters because people see you. They're gonna want to come and talk to you. They want to, hey, I have this issue, and they see you up here and they're looking for you, Ms. Weimer, right? They're looking for you to come solve their problems. Well, you might not necessarily have all the tools too, because we have to lean on our staff members. And so I would say redirect. Hey, I don't have the answer, but hey, come to the next city council meeting.
Correct. Yeah, and we're kind of running through this because we're all are experienced at this. But again, we want to make sure that we all do what we expect others to do. Yeah, failure to forward, that's an interesting statement there. So if somebody comes up to you and says, or gives you a document about something, like, well, I need to, now that I have this, I need to send it to Miss Peggy. And the decision will be made. Is this something that should be forwarded to all? Does it go through staff? I would assume something like that would go through staff first, and then there'd be some sort of correspondence to all from one designated person. But yeah, that's one of those things like, well, it's an interesting idea, but now, because I'm here, and it can be something that will come before this body, it might be something that would drive you to the point that you need to recuse yourself from a discussion at a later date.
Which, so for clarity, because there are situations where somebody wants to see something changed, there is a process. So I think we need to learn what that process is so that we can institute that mechanism and, get it started. Because I can think of a ton of things that I would like to see changed, and I'm not even sure what my capabilities are in starting that process, and who do I go to first in order to start that process.
Well, as a commissioner, you have to be really careful what you're doing outside of this public spectacle here. So this public forum. So walking quorums are a big deal because Facebook. So all these commissioners should not really be on Facebook having discussions about anything, because if you have a council person and then you have an EDC member and you have a mayor and you have someone else and you have more than 4 people, now you've created a walking quorum on Facebook. So
Yep.
walking quorums and serial meetings are probably our biggest area to really be careful about. So your question in particular, though, is you're saying if someone comes to you from the community, whether it be on Facebook or outside this building or an HEB, what do you do with that information? How do you get it out there?
Well, basically, can I give you an example?
Sure.
Okay. So in our community, we have an issue with people parking on the lawn. It is a HOA rule. However, it's very difficult for HOAs to enforce it because it's not a city UDC. So if that is an idea that, say, maybe it would be a good thing, someone comes and says, what can we do about parking on lawns? And so where would I start the mechanism to?
Well, but that's not a planning and zoning. Can you relate it to something planning and zoning? So if someone comes up to you and says, I want to turn this residential community into commercial, can we use that as an example?
Oh, well, then that's pretty easy. You have to apply through the planning. You have to be the landowner. I mean, that's pretty easy. If they own the land and they want to change it, they have to go through the planning department, the application. Then it has to be submitted into the newspaper at Seguin, and then, of course, a notification to the people that are within 200 feet of it. And then once that goes through all that process, then it comes to this planning and zoning, which we would make our recommendation to city council, and then city council would make the decision. So that one's not a difficult one.
But we're not involved with people in their lawns and people parking on the cars on the grass. So that's why I'm saying I would need personally an example of where you're finding the gap, because what you just explained right now says you do understand it, but I'm trying to follow. If someone comes up to you from HEB and says, I don't like that you guys are getting ready to zone, from SF1 to C1 for commercial, what do you do with that information? Well, you're a commissioner. You can bring that thought process with you here because you've heard your community. You cannot sit there if it's an agenda item, past, present, or technically future, which I guess I don't know how we would know it was future, but if it's past or present agenda items, you cannot have back and forth discussion on that. You can say, bring it to the public hearing, come to the citizens to be heard. We don't talk about it on Facebook. We bring it here. So am I covering any of that, or?
Well, I mean, all of that's pretty clear cut. I guess for me, you're right. The whole parking on lawns is not. I guess the reason I thought it did is because at one point in time we did have a document which showed the agreement between the developer and the city, which created homeowners associations. So
But that's
maybe
still not
why
planning and zoning.
that may be why I thought it was part of the
Yeah.
planning and zoning, because it
No,
was part of the
it's part of the
documentation.
plat and HOAs, and if you have questions on HOAs, I actually have experience in that, so call me up, let me know. I don't know which development you're in, but I might know your board members. But that's something that, it would not pertain to planning and zoning, yeah.
Be more code enforcement. Yeah.
We've gone that route.
Yeah, okay.
We nearly had a shootout, but
Okay, all right, so.
All right.
Are
Next.
there we go, thank you, yeah. Let me know what questions you have on.
Do you have a conflict of interest? And so if you do, you need to be aware of whether it's your business, your financial matters, your personal, your family interests. And we'll see further down here, there's a circle of a big word that speaks about your different levels within your family. And then there's friends and such as that, that you need to be absolutely certain that you're abstaining or better yet recusing from discussions and votes on matters that might come before council. And then later in here, it talks about, are you even acting as, you may just trying to be helpful, but you actually could be acting as counsel for someone on how to take a process through up to planning and zoning. Those sorts of things. You need to be very, very careful. So you publicly disclose if you have any personal interest in whatever the matter is. And it could be something that just a slight, some sort of discussion, and you abstain, which means you can sit here and not participate in the discussion, not participate in the vote. But again, it might be to the point that you just need to leave the room because scowling or smiling is still influencing a conversation. Yeah. You don't need to be very absolutely specific, but you want to be specific enough about what your interest is and whatever the matter is. And then there is a form that you need to fill out with Ms. Simics, and it is Personal Financial Statement Form PFS Local. And that is where you're making your declaration of whatever your interest is, how you're involved.
Is that form number listed in here? Is that form number listed in here?
It's not in this document yet, but
we need a list of
but
forms.
yeah.
As we go along, we can just create the doc and forms do you need to have or need to know about and direct it back to the secretary because they already have it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That would be more, I think the easiest thing would be just see the city secretary for proper documentation.
Yeah, that form doesn't sound familiar. I thought it's like planning department and Miss Peggy. It's like 1141 or 11. I just saw it on that what was the TLM?
I didn't take a picture of the bottom of the document. I took a picture of the top, the heading of the document.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying. There's a document that you're supposed to have filled out when you recuse yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Miss Peggy, do you just have them with you here? Okay,
Yeah.
so Miss Peggy will have it, but yeah, there's a number at
Yeah.
Yeah.
The documents have changed recently, but they do the same thing. It just one document casts a broader net. It used to be document, and now you have one document that
Okay.
can pertain to most
So
everything.
just commissioners be aware, if you are recusing yourself, please see Miss Peggy to make sure you fill out the required form. Okay.
All right, next. Different ways you can have a conflict of interest. Do you live in the notification area? Are you within the 200 feet of an area that could be going from SF1 to commercial or to industrial or something to that effect? And anyway, just need to make sure that what your conflict is. This says close family member, but we all know that sometimes you're pretty close to some fairly distant that may not be in that consanguinity. I think that's the word. Yeah, that big long word of connectivity. Or any of us might be working for a client that has a business before us, or you sit on another board that has anything to do with this. Different levels of conflict of interest. Just need to be aware of that and let your conscience be your guide and your ethics code and all of those be our guide about how we participate or not in whatever that matter is. Next.
So I kind of feel like we did that one. So what is financial conflict? We kind of did that too. Well, no, I guess you didn't talk about. Yeah, let's get to financial conflict. So one more.
One more next.
One more next.
Financial conflict of interest, yeah. Yeah, do you have interest in a company that might be um, investing in real estate or any of that matter? Do you have a family member? Do you have a good friend that is working for this? And all these areas are where you need to be really, really, really uh, strict with yourself in that my guidance to you as a good friend is the same as I give everybody else. You go talk to my good friend Aaron over here. Work from there. Yeah. So.
It goes back to the morals.
Yeah.
It goes back to morality.
Yep.
Oh, I like this one. I'm saying it goes back to morality when you look at the conflict of interest. And morally, if I own stock and let's say Amazon comes and I know by this potential market, if I study as an analyst, I'm looking to gain by them coming into this market. So if I know that I'm on this committee and I don't abstain, knowing that I've already, you can be kind of, it's one of those things that'll get you. You get tripped up, but you might, oh, well, no. Or if I want to own a business here, and yes, I know I'm meeting all the developers here, and I need this developer. So yes, we come into contact with all these people, but you have to keep in mind, like, when I'm here, this is this. It can't be any other thing. It's just, Madam Chair Lady, thank you for the time.
Okay, I know, and I don't want to rush us along, but I also am wondering if we can breeze through these last few pages.
I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can. Next. There we are. The contiguity church. What do you do when you're at a social event? You be nice, you be cordial, you talk about friends and family, you don't talk about matters here. Yeah. Yep. It's very, very important that if you are corresponding in email, you correspond in email specifically for this purpose, not your personal email. There are opportunities that your email will be requested, hopefully just through a Public Information Act request, not through a legal purpose, but if it goes legal, you have the possibility of having to give up all of your email, copies to all of your email. So very, very smart move to only discuss these matters only on the email provided by the city for the commission. Next. We covered some of that. The local church, I want to look at buying some property, the same sort of thing as a corporation. It's how do you're asked to recommend somebody to represent a case. How can you get in trouble with that? Well, if you talk to this guy, he was really smart and he convinced us all. So you need to go talk to him or go talk to her. Shy away from those things, out at dinner, grocery store, whatever. That's where we start running into that walking quorum, such as that. So, and you can say something and then they make a post on social media. With our willingness to participate in serving our community, we have a lot of responsibility to not be cold to our community and our friends and neighbors, but to let them understand that you're being very careful and conscientious about these issues and why. Everybody gets the same answer.
Yes.
Okay, next. Well, we do have a policy. We covered that earlier on, and it's the perception. It might have only been a muffin, but what's the perception? Yeah, okay,
Gotcha.
next.
Okay.
So as we're working on it now, we're trying to understand our role. What are our relationships as we understand our role? Listen carefully, a very important part of all of this. And our conscience includes all of our training in ethics. Okay, next. And that is it. If you need any more, would like any more, then those are some links to the Texas Association, the Texas office of the American Planning Association. Very nice people. I actually spoke with a young man in Chicago at the national office, and he led me to this area where I could find these presentations. So,
Thank you, Terry, for, all of this was really informative and helpful. I appreciate the slides, the information. There's still more to come. Again, keep pushing it through to Miss Peggy. Oh, yep, go ahead, Miss Peggy.
I just wanted, since you're talking about training, about a week ago, I sent all of you a email, and it has to do with ethics training. So there's 2 classes that are scheduled, mandatory to attend. One is next Tuesday, 6:30 in the evening. It's 1-hour class that you have to attend, or it's going to be on February the 8th, which is a Saturday morning, and it'll be at 9:30 in the morning right here. You have to attend one of those classes.
Okay,
It is
so,
mandatory. Every year you will have ethics training.
and duly noted, 1 hour.
And
Okay,
it's done by the city attorney.
okay, perfect.
okay, very good, thank you.
All right, so again, thank you,
Yeah.
subcommittee. We look forward to seeing more. Items for futures agendas. I guess the only thing that I would bring up is it's not really for agenda, but just items for future note is to make sure we're attending that ethics training. And then if staff can just keep the subcommittee updates on here for at least the next probably 3 months. I think we had like a 6-month goal, so I'm not sure where we're at in that, but keep that on there. And other than that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
One more question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yep, on, for future agenda items, we were talking about traffic lights and such as that. And I know there is a grand plan for the 1103, FM 1103 design and build out. If y'all can have a way of grabbing that and just giving us an idea, because I keep hearing there's somewhere between 5 and 8 traffic lights planned. And so if we can just get an idea of where those traffic lights are generally planned to be placed, I think that'll help out a lot.
That'll be on the TI.
Peggy, can you give us a date?
It should be, yeah, but they have a design plan.
21st. The 21st, okay.
21st is what?
Tuesday, the 21st. Oh, I thought you said next Tuesday.
But there's a
Tuesday.
council meeting.
Okay. It's in our emails, though, right? Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I might have got it mixed up with the no before notices that came through, because those were like bing, bing, bing. And so I was like, yeah, I got to get to those. But this is a different one. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn. It is 8:35. Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a tie for a second, motion and a second, and we'll start on this
Aye.
side.
Aye.
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 Aye, perfect.